अपणजलै समुद्रसायिता कुर्वन्तरो मङ्गलम् ओम नाना सुगन्धपुष्पाणि यथा कालोद्भवानि च पुष्पाञ्जलि मया दत्तं ग्रहण परमेश्वरः श्रीमन्महागणाधिपते नमः ओम सिन्दूरसौगणं रक्तं सुभाग्यं सुवर्धनं सुभ्रं कामदेवते सिन्दूरवते गृहीतां शुल्कानां समर्पयामि ओम रक्तोरसूभूतो गन्धादिगन्धकोम् आरघ्यं सर्वदेवानां भूयों प्रतिगृहीतां रूपं दीपं दृश्यामि श्रीमन्महागणाधिपते नमो नमः नमस्कारं करोमि ओं नमो नमः मङ्गलं भगवान् विष्णु मङ्गलं गरुडध्वजः मङ्गलं पुण्डरीकाक्ष मङ्गलाय तनो हरि ओम्.
Being in a loving relationship gives couples the courage to face challenges together. In a mixed relationship, this may mean making sacrifices and understanding new traditions. With the increasing number of individuals who are committed to a mixed relationship, the face of our society is ever-changing. Anne is a nurse who is involved with another medical professional, Khalid. Khalid is also an established South Asian poet. Anne tries to share his appreciation for South Asian arts, but is limited due to language.
When I recount how Howard and I met, we had met through a friend of mine, and I remember him asking me out for supper. I wasn't exactly sure if it was considered a date, but indeed it was, and I recount having that first date with him and finding that it truly was probably the best date I've ever been on in my life. I remember for the first probably 6 months that I knew him, I had to attend very closely to what he was saying because there was a bit of the accent, some words, the way he pronounced them. I don't notice it now because it's been 6 years that we've been together.
Although Anne was able to overcome the initial language barrier with Khalid, she is unable to communicate with the rest of his family. This has made her feel distant from them.
Do you
like the food that you have cooked for her? And Sebastian, you learned to cook somewhere?
It's kind of uncomfortable because Howard's father didn't speak, or mother rather didn't speak in English, so I had a hard time communicating with her. We just looked at each other back and forth and would smile, so frequently that is a problem in the relationship, and Khalid's father doesn't speak very much either. I mean, he does speak English, and he seems quite fluent, but I think it's that he doesn't feel as comfortable as he does in his own language, so he chooses not to speak to me all that much. I don't think it's a personal thing. I think it's a language barrier more than anything else.
Anna Geary, a medical professional, remembers moments from her past. 20 years ago, Anna entered into a new culture which resulted in a mixed relationship.
In 1975, when I was about 28, I was sent to Honduras by the Canadian government to work for a couple of years with the peasant communities in the mountains of that country. However, I didn't speak any Spanish, so they sent me to the neighboring country of Guatemala for 10 weeks for intensive language training. A few weeks after I was there, I went to a big dance and met a Guatemalan man, 10 years younger than I, but nevertheless, we were quite attracted to each other, and there was a courtship, and even after I left Guatemala to go and work in Honduras, we continued the contact and got married a little more than a year later. Up until the time we got married, we had been very much in sync. However, the minute the ink was dry on the legal papers that we signed for the marriage, his personality changed. Suddenly I could do nothing right. He became very jealous, very critical of me, of characteristics of mine, of people that I was friends with in Honduras. When he became so critical and verbally abusive, I rethought my position and thought that we had better come back to Canada where I felt safer.
Because of his commitment to Anne, Fernando left his country and came to North America, where he had to adjust to a new culture and language.
When my 2 years term was up, we made the decision to come back to Canada. We arrived at my parents' place from the airport. However, my mother noticed some dirt on the floor and began to inquire, as she would do with anybody, who had dirt on their shoe, and for them to take their shoe off. And unfortunately, it turned out to be Fernando, and he felt very badly that he had damaged this beautiful floor, practically the first thing he did when he arrived in our house. He had been feeling pretty insecure about himself anyway, not being able to speak English, but hearing somebody yelling at everyone in a strange language, who did this, who did this. I think it tipped the balance for him, and he started to feel pretty awful about himself. So things went downhill from there.
One of the things that Harold really enjoys going to are these evenings where they're eating the shows and an evening of guzzles or an evening of song. He really likes listening to music. I get kind of amusement out of him. Just a couple of months ago now, we went to one of them together. And I really enjoyed it because part of it is not just the music itself, of which I don't understand words, but the other part is also that you get some kind of an entertainment value of just watching people play these different instruments or just their whole posture. Quite often I'll sit in our last hired, I'll say, what is this that this woman is saying? However, the people that are around me, I think sometimes they're interrupted, or they find that I'm interrupting them just by asking him to tell me what the words mean, so that I feel like I'm more a part of it. And if I don't want to be disruptive, so I'm either sitting there disrupting others, or I'm sitting there not understanding a word what they say. So I thought, am I really enjoying this, or am I not reading? I could be doing something else with some of my friends, or I could be in a better situation where I'm understanding it. So those kinds of things we don't necessarily always go together to.
Anne's hope to renew the relationship in Canada was unsuccessful due to increased tension.
Looking back, I think what was happening was that as my pregnancy advanced and I found work, I would go away to work. He had nothing to do all day. I would come home, and he would take out his frustration on me verbally. It got so bad that I began to feel desperate what to do about the relationship. He eventually found a job in a factory, which was far beneath his capabilities. He found it difficult to work in that environment, and again, that increased the tension between the two of us. Jessica was born, and then another baby was on the way.
Soon after the youngest, Katie, was born, Anne and Fernando separated and then divorced. Anne became a single mother and raised her children in the North American culture.